Thank you for staying with us. You're still watching The Breakfast on Plus TV Africa. The Crude Oil Refinery Owners Association of Nigeria, CORAN, has explained that despite a global drop in crude oil prices, local fuel prices remain high due to factors like suspended naira for crude deals, middlemen profiteering, and rising foreign exchange rates. Speaking on the issue, current spokesperson Eche Idoko stated that the challenges surrounding local refinery and the influence of foreign exchange and logistics costs continue to drive up petrol prices in Nigeria. He also blames middlemen for sabotaging efforts towards affordable local refined fuel. As a result, petrol pump price now range between 900 to 975 naira per litre across Nigeria. This increase follows the Dangote refinery's suspension of petrol sales in naira on March 19, 2025, after a failed agreement with the federal government and the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited (NNPCL). Joining us to discuss this this morning is KINGSLEY Jeremiah, is the editor and the Energy ABUJA Deputy Bureau Chief, The Guardian. Good morning, sir. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, and thank you for having me on the program today.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome.
So there is a thing in Nigeria that says the prices of things always just find a way to never defy gravity. So whatever goes up never comes down. It always stays up. It's almost like we're in space, right? What do you think about this? I mean, we've seen that the crude oil prices come down, even though here there are so many factors to it. But how come we never really see prices of anything in Nigeria come down, especially in the energy sector? It's almost as if it has to remain there or go higher.
Okay, the prices of petroleum products, PMS, diesel, kerosene are all determined by global factor. And I disagree with you that everything that goes up doesn't come down. In the petroleum industry, in recent time, that has not been correct. We've seen the prices fluctuating. And because this is also much more of a global commodity, whatever happens at the international level should have some impact on the local, on the pump price locally. And I totally do not agree with the Association for Refiners, CORAN. I do not agree because most of the factors they mentioned to keep the pump price of petroleum products high are not tenable enough. The pump price of petroleum products, PMS, diesel, jet fuel, kerosene, should come down just as it is in the global space. We might not see an immediate reduction because the petroleum sector is a future market in the sense that wherever you order about a month ago, we have to be delivered maybe 1 month ahead. So you might not see that price reduce the very day you're seeing the price of crude reduced. But wherever the situation is in the coming days, at all costs, if we have a properly deregulated market, then the price of PMS, diesel, and other petroleum products should begin to come down in Nigeria.
Yeah. Well, I know you said you don't agree with me in regards to the fact that when things go up, but I mean, I wasn't obviously talking about only petrol. In the last few months, we've seen petrol fluctuate, even though we've never really seen it go down to as low as 500 or 600 naira. So maybe it's always been in that same range of about 800 to 1,000 naira. Now, you've said that you do not also agree with CORAN's, what they've said in regards to the factors that actually bring about this. But what would you say, in regards to having to have, maybe not, I'm sure because of the international standard and everything, it cannot be static. The price cannot be static. But how do we go to get a price that is affordable for people?
Now, so in terms of affordability, what we should be asking for primarily is efficiency. Under a deregulated market, unless if a different government comes today and say we're moving back to subsidy, we will never have the kind of price you're canvassing around 500 naira to a litre it might be very difficult. That can be achieved when the price of crude oil, for instance, drop drastically to about $30 or $40 to a barrel, which is also not good for us as a country because our economy is dependent on the petroleum industry. So the factor contributing to what becomes the pump price of petroleum products, which most refiner work around, is crude oil. Crude oil accounts for about 50% of that price. We have in the past week seen about $10 reduction from the price, which was at $75 per barrel about a week ago, and then down to about $61. Earlier this morning, it was about $64. But wherever the situation is, we have seen as much as $10 reduction in the price of petroleum products. So there is nothing that should stop what we will get eventually in the pump. So the other factor which Corinne mentioned relates to the foreign exchange market. That has been stable over a period of time. Another factor they mentioned relates to middlemen. And by middlemen, I assume that they're talking about the marketers that we have across boards, including the depot owners. Over the years, these marketers have been there. They are not new to the market. And the refiners themselves cannot directly sell their crude. They have to rely on these middlemen to ensure that they sell their products. So these are not new factors. There is nothing that has drastically changed in the petroleum industry, except the fact that we now have a reduction in the in the crude oil price. So that reduction should translate into a reduction in the pump price of petroleum products. So I do not agree with Current in that sense at all.
You talked about the foreign exchange being stable for some time now. I do not understand. How do you mean? Has it been stable, the foreign exchange, that cannot affect the market so much so that it's worthy of complaint?
Yes, so we have not, compared to what we saw last year, the level of changes in the foreign exchange market has not been so bad. Sometimes last year we saw the foreign exchange going up to about 1,700, 1,800 naira to a dollar. It has relatively been between, on average, let's say 1,500 naira to a dollar. So that is not significant enough to create a very drastic increase in the pump price of petroleum products, or to deny consumer the right to enjoy a reduction in the pump price due to the significant reduction in the barrel of oil. So these are realities that we need to work with.
Well, I do not know. Some people have argued that Naira for crude is not something so significant that it should affect us in any way, whether we sell it in Naira or we sell it in dollars. The thing is, the crude oil must be sold at the international rate and all that. Now it has become a complaint that they're saying that Naira for crude is affecting us. To what extent do you think this Naira for crude is affecting us? Or don't you just believe, because you've mentioned them, that these are the things, some of the things that the current has mentioned as factors that are militating against the fuel being cheaper than it is right now. So do you think Naira for crude is really, really a factor, or is not?
Now, so the issue about Naira for crude, we should not allow the refiners to hold us to ransom under the Naira for crude arrangement. And then we came up with the Naira for crude arrangement just to resolve some temporary issue that we have had in the market. So if we use the Naira for crude basis to also deny consumers of the benefit they should get, that's not right. So the Naira for crude has its benefits, but it should not be the primary determinant. It should not be the major reasons why the reduction of crude oil at the international market will not translate into any benefit locally for the consumer. One primary thing that the Naira for Crude arrangement really helped the refiners to do is to help them maintain their balance sheet. For instance, they do not possibly need a letter of credit in dollars for them to make their payment, and that enables them to use their Naira accounts to possibly complete their transaction. It makes things a lot easier for them, and then also make things a lot easier for the Nigerian economy. But wherever the case is, the value of the Naira at the point that the transaction is being completed is translated directly to what the prevailing exchange rate is for that period. So if the exchange rate for the day is said about 1,700 to $1, and then you're transacting, you most likely transact on that rate. If it comes down, you also transact on that rate. So the Naira for Crude factor plays its own role, but should not outrightly deny consumer of enjoying a cheaper price of petroleum products when the prices are dropping. When the price of crude is dropping at the international level.
Well, I know that one of the factors may be the fact that we don't have working refineries at the moment. Do you think that also play a role? We have 4 refineries in Nigeria, but none of them seem to have the capacity to be in proper working conditions that we need. Do you think there would have been an impact if our own refineries were working, and this is in relation to the prices?
While I understand that we need most of the refineries to get on board and start working, the 75,000 barrel we have from Warri Refinery, the 60,000 barrel that we have from the Port Harcourt Refinery, and then Dangote also needs to ramp up to about 650,000 of its capacity. The current situation we have is that 50% of what we consume in terms of premium motor spirit, which we call petrol, comes from the international community, and we source about 50% locally. That situation gives us a good ground to measure and check. The importers will definitely feel the reduction of whatever they buy at the international market. They will demand for that. And then the local refiners will also be under pressure to bring down their product to match what it is that most of the people who are importing are getting. But in recent time, we have seen a level of market destruction controlled by the Dangote refinery and also controlled by the NNPC in terms of price war. So the situation is, if Dangote refinery set its price today, it has impact on what other marketers will most likely sell their product. And if NNPC sets their price today, it has an impact on how the market will respond. So by implication, the NNPC or the Dangote refinery can deny consumer the right to enjoy a cheaper product, because if the importers are bringing the product in and they see that the bigger marketers have dictated what the price will look like, they just make more profit and sell at that rate because the price has been determined by a single player who has the largest share of the market. So those are impacts of what you will see from the bigger refiners, and then like the Dangote refinery and NNPC that is refining, say about that should be close to 100 and something thousand barrel per day. So these two entities has a lot of role to play, and we need to put a lot of pressure on them so that they find a way to reduce the price and not give an excuse on the issues we have locally.
All right, thank you so much for that. And like you said, we need to put a lot more pressure on them, because all of these things that we've highlighted today are factors that obviously contribute to the current price that we're paying for PMS, or even all of the petroleum products as a whole. So if we can put enough pressure on them to ensure that they're giving us what we want and at an affordable rate, why not? This is how much we can take on the show right now. Jeremiah, I want to say thank you so much for coming. It's been a pleasure having you on our program. Thank you for your time. All right, so we're speaking with KINGSLEY. Jeremiah is the editor, Energy ABUJA Deputy Bureau Chief of The Guardian. And we've just been looking at the fact that, well, prices of petrol still remain high, even though the cost of crude has reduced. But this is how much we can take on the show this morning. Thank you so much for having the breakfast with us. My name is Rume Paulson.
And I am Nyangul Agaji. Thank you for being there.
Have a wonderful day. Good morning.